Hello there, everyone. We have some Star Wars Armada news to talk about. Rapid Reinforcements 2 is here. It's live. You can print it, you can play it, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Very, very exciting time. I am going through a lot of emotions with this particular release. It's definitely more than I was expecting, but in some ways less than I'd hoped. But definitely focusing on it was more than I was expecting. I was afraid we were only going to get 4 cards. We got twice that. We have 8 new cards, which is very exciting. Some things I very much wanted to see. Some things I was looking for that didn't make it in, that didn't show up. So we'll talk about all of that. We're going to run through all of these cards, and don't worry, I may not do an incredibly deep dive on all of these. There's definitely going to be more exploration done on each of these cards, but I want to talk about all of them in today's video. I'm thrilled. I'm over the moon. Super exciting time. It's April, and I was afraid we weren't going to get these until like June or July, and all of a sudden they're showing up now, and it's great. And I even said something on my Discord like 2 days ago or yesterday or whenever. I'm like, I really need rapid reinforcements. I really need rapid reinforcements too. I want it this week, and they give it to us this week. And I was like, wow. I didn't, trust me, I did not know that was coming. I was just hopeful. That's all it was hope. And sometimes hope is all you need. Sometimes hope is enough. All right, so enough with the corny stuff. Let me do a little admin before I jump in. As you guys know, I do giveaways all the time. We have a huge giveaway going on right now. If you haven't heard, this is going until the beginning of June when Shatterpoint comes out. For those of you who are interested in Star Wars Shatterpoint, I'm giving away a Star Wars Shatterpoint core set in the form of a $165 Amazon gift card. If you want to enter that giveaway, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. You can let me know what your favorite Star Wars games. I also want to hear your thoughts on Rapid Reinforcements 2. It's a great discussion. And of course, keep the discussion going. You can join our Discord. We have a painting competition going on right now in Discord. I do giveaways often in Discord also. So you definitely want to check that out. Social media, Patreon, all kinds of other good stuff like that in the video description below, as well as the link where you can get your copy of Rapid Reinforcements 2 absolutely free. By the way, this is free. This is free content. Very cool, AMG. Thank you for giving us free content. I appreciate that. I really would also like more, printed expansions and campaigns and new ships and things like that too. Also want all that stuff, but for what we have, I'm very grateful. I'm appreciative that we have new stuff to talk about today. So let's just get to it. Let's jump right in. Okay. So we've got summary. We got 4 new squadrons and then 4 new people. Some of them are officers. Some of them are commanders. So we're going to talk about our squadrons first. We're going to run through. And by the way, it's 2 new cards for every faction, which is also very, very cool. Separatists don't only get 1 thing this time. Separatists actually get 2. I was kind of hoping Separatists would have gotten like an extra on top of everybody else to catch them up for Rapid Reinforcements 1. That didn't happen. That's okay. We're going to talk about Matchstick. BTLB Y-Wing Squadron for your Republic. I thought kind of Republic Squadrons were largely okay, but maybe not perfect. I don't play Squadrons as much, so I might not be the best authority on what's needed for the Squadron game in this case, but I think this is a cool bomber. I like Y-Wing bombers. The problem is, your ARC 170s are just so much cooler. But Matchstick is a cool BTLB Y-Wing. Is a double brace. Another Y-Wing ace also, by the way, which is a good thing. And he's, blue and black against other squadrons. 1 black die bomber. But he says, while you're unengaged, friendly squadrons with bomber at distance 1 gain rogue. I like that. I like that a lot. That doesn't have to be only Y-Wings. That can be any friendly squadrons with bomber. So your ARC 170s you can still bring them. They gain rogue? That's cool. Although, does Republic need rogue? Right? Like, that's an interesting question. I assume there has definitely been some folks wishing that Republic had access to rogues. So, I think it's a cool thing. And there's no limit on this, too. What I see this doing is really punishing people who go anti-squadron. I'm sorry, no squadrons. I'm sorry. Really punishing people that go no squadrons. Because imagine you just group everybody up on Matchstick and they all gain rogue. And you just keep this death ball. Like, it's like basically saying, hey, everybody, 100% bring squadrons all the time. Because, and the thing is, if you, like, bundle everybody up, like, you could potentially, I guess, doing the math, right? You could make a little ball with Matchstick in the middle and make it to where nobody else can possibly engage Matchstick. If you had enough squadrons to build this perfect little death blossom and move it around, you know, together, if nobody can engage Matchstick, everybody's going to have rogue. Like if you're running all bombers. That's interesting. I guess once they take out one, then they break a hole in. But if you can really protect Matchstick from being engaged by just kind of layering squadrons around him, that's so interesting to me. I think it's worth playing with, you know, because I could get behind. Some of my favorite squadron builds are ones that don't rely on the squadron command, and it's delicate to try to do this. But I think it's so cool, the little Matchstick Death Blossom. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works. That'll be a fun one to play with. Wat Tambor. We knew Wat Tambor was coming from the artwork. Separatists are getting Wat Tambor in the Belbalub 22. Belbalub needed some love, or needed some lub. Okay, Belbalub definitely needed some love, and here's a really good addition to the Separatists squadron arsenal, I suppose. I really like this card. He's got Relay 1, he's got Screen, as Belbalubs do. He's 20 points, he's got a Brace and an Evade. Okay, no Scatter, which is fine, no Double Brace, but the Evade's not terrible. What's really interesting is that he has Escort. Escort is the big thing. Now, no special, like, oh, Wat Tambor may also do this special stuff when you're doing that. It's just reusing existing keywords, but adding Escort. Separatists don't have anyone with Escort, right? And all of a sudden, now you've got two keywords that really work well together. Escort and Screen. Escort and Screen work extremely well together. This is going to work really well for small to medium builds. Enemy squadrons coming in have to attack him, right? Not only that, he's going to gain dodge 1. Or basically, he's going to gain dodge 3 because you're going to run a little ball of squadrons together. So he's going to gain dodge 3 and has an evade. So good luck trying to get damage through on this guy. And even if you somehow do, he can still brace it. Very cool. Very cool. So I'm kind of digging Wat Tambor. I like what he's got going on. I like it. I like it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm thinking like, all right, what do you combo this with? You know, like, or does it need a combo? You just run a couple of vultures with this. Maybe it feels like it would combo really well with Grievous, but maybe not Grievous Commander. But maybe you could run Grievous into Belbalub alongside this one, or maybe better with Grievous Commander. Because I don't. People may not want to shoot Wat Tambor, so they may try to pick off your vultures that are on the side. And I'm like, okay, fine. If you do that, then Grievous's flagship gets a token back. So maybe just a whole different way to run squadrons with Separatists, which kind of fits the general idea of what I thought Separatists needed. Now, the Separatists did not get a new commander, which I really wanted. I was hoping we'd get a Wat Tambor commander. That gave Separatists, maybe a new or a revised way to run squadrons, and we didn't get that. But Wat Tambor as a squadron can impact the Separatist squadron game enough that it's a different way to address the same goal. So interesting, but gonna have to see how it plays out. It's gonna have to see how people try to counter it, or if they just frankly ignore it, because still at the end of the day, he's only rolling one black die against a ship without bomber, so he's only as deadly as an A-wing if you ignore him. So maybe that's the answer here. I don't know. Moving right along, we knew we were getting a gauntlet fighter. We certainly did, and here it is: Fenra working for the Rebels in the Mandalorian gauntlet fighter. I thought for sure this was going to be Ezra. I had called it for sure. 100% this is Ezra. It has to be Ezra. And of course, I'm like, no. See, I thought Fenra would have been in like a Sick, or an M3A or something, or not a Fang fighter or something like that, because that's what he flew. But okay, it works. Of course, Fenra would know how to fly a Mandalorian gauntlet fighter. It works. And the good thing is I don't have to like lose Ezra as an officer. So I'm like, I'm okay with having Fenra as the pilot for this. That's cool. That works. Like there's no opportunity cost. I don't lose out on Ezra, which is something that I'm happy about. Okay, so 2 things. He's still got Assault. Not super great for the Rebels. It's not super great. But it's worth looking into. And this is something I'll probably do a build with this at some point, trying to like put like Fenra and Kanan together and trying to see what kind of, what kind of assault-based builds we can get. I imagine we'll have the whole Ghost crew involved in some way. We'll run Rex, Old Man Rex, and see if that's even viable, if it works. I don't know. We'll see. He's got Escort, too, which I think is pretty cool for a 7-hull ship to have Escort. I think you want to probably run him with Jan, so he can spend Jan's defense tokens instead of his own, because he's only got the 1 brace. 24 points also, so not cheap. 7-hull, speed 4 ship, so big chonker of a ship. Also rose blue-black against ships. Again, gauntlets gauntlets have respectable firepower. It's not great, but it's respectable. They're really good against ships. He doesn't have bomber, though. But still, blue back is pretty good, especially in the Rebels, because you can get those blue die rerolls with Torin Far, all kinds of cool stuff. But he also has a special ability, in addition to Assault and Escort, which I thought is really cool. Does not have Rogue, though. So you're going to want to activate him, or bring Hera. Like I said, bring the whole Rebels Ghost crew, maybe. When you are chosen to, because for some reason I feel like Mandalorians should have Rogue, and just because he feels like he would run like a Rogue. I don't know. When you're chosen to activate by a squadron command, after the activate, maybe you don't want to run Hera because I'm forgetting his ability. Again, this just came out, it's all fresh. Maybe Hera's maybe not the best option, but who knows? But at least with Hera you have choices, because you probably have some other A-wings and stuff like that. Anyway. When you're chosen to activate by a squadron command, after the activation is resolved, choose up to 2 non-unique squadrons at distance 1. The chosen squads may activate as if they were activated by the chosen squadron command. I do think, when I first looked at this, I was thinking like, oh, he's mimicking Hera. But I feel like it'll work well with Hera. Also, I feel like, as if they were activated by the chosen squadron command. So so if this comes from Yavaris, they all get that same benefit? Okay, so that's cool, because you're extending, not just 2 extra squadrons get to activate, but they're being activated by the same squadron command. So this is a force multiplier, or force adder. I don't know. There's a word for it, but basically he's taking that same effect and times 2ing it out there to other people. Like, oh, do I get an extra blue die when I attack because you activated me with those guys? Cool, you get it too. Oh, do I get this bonus extra die on my anti-ship roll if I don't move because it's from Yavaris? Cool, the same command activated those 2 also. So it's a way to turn a rebel rinky-dink carrier into a really good carrier. I might even run this in a Leia fleet, because I used to run one of my first a Hammerhead builds was like, hey, you know what? Hammerheads can make good carriers, if not for the fact that they have a low squadron value. But if I'm running Leia and I do squadron, they get a free token. So now that 1 turns into 2, and then I can upgrade their squadron value or whatever, and then I can get they have all the right upgrades that Hammerheads could end up making fierce carriers or whatever. Heck, and in this case, one of the Hammerhead's single commands could be hitting this guy, and then 2 more. Maybe not the most optimal thing, but I feel like there's a lot of different usage for this guy. Running him primarily as an escort, running him primarily as an assault deliverer, a raid token delivery platform to team up with the very limited, like Sabine. No, not Sabine, but there's very limited ways to put raid. Jyn or so. There's not that many ways to put a whole lot of raid tokens on enemy ships with Rebels. But now that you've got another one, maybe it's worth exploring a build to kind of explore that. I don't know how competitive it would be, but it could be thematic, it could be fun, and it could be different. And I think that's cool. So let's keep going. We got Volt Scaris. Interesting. Scatter Ace. TIE Interceptor. Scatter Ace. He doesn't have a brace, though, which is so interesting, right? So you've got Evade and Scatter. You've speed 5, hull 3, as you would expect. You know, 2 blue, 2 black for squadrons, 1 blue against ships. It's funny to me because, goodness, he's interesting. During the squadron phase, you cannot make non-counter attacks. He's got counter 4, everybody. Counter 4. He's coming right out there. I mean, there's already really nasty Imperial counter stuff. I've seen so many nasty Imperial Squadron balls that are able to just come in and completely melt squadrons. Like, oh, you have to attack this guy, and since you didn't attack this guy, since your fell gets you, and oh, we've got a Howl Runner, and we've got Bosk, and you know, everybody gets +1. So like, oh, I'm countering. There's already stuff like counter 5, and you know, and adding a die because you know, and rerolls because of Swarm and all that stuff. He's got counter 4 with Swarm built in already. So you pair him with Howl Runner, he's got counter 5. Throw Bosk on there, whatever, like. Insanity. So like, if nobody's ever gonna attack this guy, right? Unless they want to die instantly. So like his negative here is confusing to me because during the squadron phase, so like basically, I feel like this is meant to reflect a scene in Rebels where he doesn't obey Thrawn, right? Like he can't be trusted to do what he was told to do, so you have to micromanage him, right? So if you don't give him a squadron command directly, you can't expect him to follow previous orders, you know, so he won't attack. He'll be moving or whatever, you know. I guess that's kind of the theme they're going with him. But yeah, counterforce cool for Scatter Ace, but no brace on him, which is just an interesting choice at 18 points. All right, those are our 4 squadrons. Now we are going to get into one that you've already seen. We've already seen Governor Price. She is the Imperial officer. This is our second Imperial. You know, and I'll say this. I don't think Empire needed Volt Scaris, and I definitely don't think they need Governor Price. Strange to me that these were choices. That this is like apparently, maybe these will be changed at some point because she's great for Empire for everything except onagers. You know, she's going to be the worst on an onager, which is the worst part of the Empire, and I feel like the most OP ship. And who's the most OP commander? You know, Sloane. And Volt Scaris is going to be like a nightmare in a Sloane fleet. So I just feel like, oh my gosh, like the 2 Imperial cards cater to the already the most broken OP stuff. So I don't know, you know, if this is final. I don't know if they're going to change this. I hope they do. I hope she works on anything except an ignition attack, you know, at some point. Because on ignition attacks, I feel like it's stronger than it needs to be. They don't need any help, and they're getting even more help. And this is going to encourage more double onager lists. You know, I'm not thrilled. But she's 7 points, so she's a little expensive at least. Once per activation, while performing an attack against an enemy ship, you may spend a shield from the attacking hull zone to change a die face to any result. Not super thrilled with this. It's super strong, and it would be a really welcome addition to any non-onager based fleet. You know, like if on a Star Destroyer, it'd be really cool. A little bit of risk versus reward. You go in there arrogant. I can spend the shield. I'm not going to need it. Well, if you're on an onager, you actually aren't going to need it because they're never going to get to you. They'll be dead before they get to you. Especially when you're changing on your ignition attack, you're getting a die change of your choice effectively for free. You know, like in addition to all the other dice mitigation mechanics and stuff that onagers have. It's kind of nutso. So, but we've seen her already. Let's move on to something new. Asajj Ventress. I was hoping for Asajj. I was hoping that Asajj would have been a commander. I had some cool ideas for Asajj as commander, but thematically it made less sense. She certainly has been in a command-esque role in the Clone Wars, but she's usually like, you know, like just get me to that ship and then I'll do my own thing. So kind of officer suits her more. I was thinking boarding team would have also been really good for Asajj Ventress, but I wanted her to be maybe a commander that functioned like a boarding team. I thought that would have been a cool thing, and that can still happen later on. So she's a 4-point officer. After you perform an attack targeting a ship that has 1 or more raid tokens, if the defender suffered 1 or more damage, you may remove 1 raid token and 1 command token from the defender. If you do, gain a matching command token. So, I think there's going to be some FAQs about this, like when they say matching command token, I think it has to match the command token that you took, not the raid token that you took. And I don't think the raid token and command token that you take have to be of the same command type. You know, I think the only things that have to match is the command token that you take and the command token that you gain. So if you take engineering token from them, you're gaining engineering token. You may remove a concentrate fire raid token from them or something like that, even if they happen to already have an engineering token. But I can imagine there might be a question or two or an FAQ entry or two about that, because to me it seems clear that matching means command token. It says matching command token, so you would match it to the command token. But you are referencing multiple different types of tokens in here, so I imagine that might be a question. As to her effectiveness, I'm not so sure that the Separatists needed any more interaction with raid tokens. I thought they were already pretty good with raid tokens, but I think the goal here was to give Dooku more viability. I think that's the goal. I really like, but the problem is I look at her and I think, well, this doesn't make me want to run Dooku anymore. This just makes me want to run TF 1726 more. She's, kind of helping that fleet. She doesn't seem great at it, because taking a raid token off is like okay, it works if you're like the last ship to shoot, because hey, if they're starting to stack up raid tokens, they're probably just going to pop a command dial, burn them all. So maybe I can afford to take one off, especially if they've got 2 on, which I like to get with TF 1726. Oh, you're the carrier, let me put a squadron raid token on you. Oh, I'm getting another shot. Okay, let me put engineering raid token on you. And then when I attack with her, then she's like, okay, I'll take the engineering off now, but I'll leave you with the squadron one, because you're probably going to burn a dial to get rid of your raid tokens, especially if you get up to like 3 or even 4 by mid game. So, I see her kind of giving you the option to get a token of your choice, or really token stripping. I think the stripping of tokens is more important here than the gaining of the token, especially as it might combo with certain other things. But I don't know. I don't know how much she really helps Dooku. This is one that is going to take more time to kind of brew in the oven to see, is she going to be viable? Is she going to be desirable to be run? Is that mechanic really going to work well? But the other thing is, I think that even though Dooku's pictured there, and that's the first place your mind goes, I don't know. I feel like she could give a little more options to let's look at Admiral Trench. One of the problems with Trench is he's so complicated to make him work. He needs so many different things to line up for your fleet to really benefit from that. And I feel like she kind of synergizes a little bit with Trench, because hey, I'm getting a token from this. I'm stripping a token and gaining a token, and now I can turn that token into a full dial. So she can combo with that, or a tactical droid on the Separatists. So but the thing is tactical droids, another officer. So it's gosh, who can? I don't think the Separatists can run any double officer ships. So she's obviously not going to work with that. I feel like maybe she's there for Trench and Dooku to maybe make them work a little better. But the problem I have with that is I still feel like I want to put her in a TF 1726, / Patriot Fist kind of fleet somewhere. Maybe not on the Patriot Fist itself, but somewhere. Maybe actually on the Patriot Fist. If I want it shooting last. So yeah, it's a thought. It's not crazy good. I love the artwork. I absolutely love the artwork. It's very, very good artwork. She's on a ship, so like it's very good. So I'm digging it. I am digging it. Next one is a surprise. Next one is a big surprise to me. Rebels getting another commander, and it's General Draven. So I am all for General Draven showing up. Very cool. Very cool. Rogue One commander. We talked a lot about him before. In all of the years of speculation, he's certainly been a name that's come up quite a bit, especially in the aftermath of Rogue One. But what's surprising to me is that Rebels didn't need another commander. Separatists needed another commander. I would have much rather had a Rebel officer and Separatist commander. As a matter of fact, Asajj Ventress's mechanic would have been pretty cool on a Rebel, or something like that. Would have been really cool on a Rebel. That could have then kind of played into like, hey, Rebels are getting emerging possibility to use rage tokens. Now they can strip tokens with it. You know, like I would rather have Asajj on the Rebels and put Draven on the Separatists, or a different commander probably, like somebody to do. But this is an interesting ability. This is interesting. Not great, but it's interesting. So he's going to have 2 dials on him, and you're going to choose those different timing here. You choose the command dials for these after deploying fleets. So you get to see kind of where things are set up, where your opponent's set up, if you had deployment advantage or not, if it's a favorable deployment for you or not. So you get more information before choosing these dials, which is cool. 28 points, so midpoint, moderate expense, not the high, not too high, not too low. He says at the start of each ship phase, you may reveal and discard 1 command dial from this card. If you do, until the end of the round, when an enemy ship spends a matching command dial, it resolves that dial as though it spent a token of the same type instead. I feel like there's probably going to be eventual needs for some kind of FAQ, because there are more ways to get a dial and or spend a dial rather than just revealing it, like Thrawn mechanics and things like that. And since this is it doesn't say when they reveal a dial, it says when they spend a dial. So you have to go into the rules, and this is going to take me some time to kind of pour over and think about every possible reaction, every use case of spending a dial. Like, am I spending a dial to purge all of my rage tokens, for example, or is that written, like how's that interaction going to work? Is that say, oh no, actually you only get to get rid of 1 rage token, right? So like, and again, I'm at first glance, there's a lot of different dial related shenanigans, and because he's dealing with your enemy fleet, you don't just have to think about what can the rebels do. You got to think about what every faction can do, because you could face anyone. But it's kind of cool, the fact that it can hit so many different things. Did you have that Quasar with the title that gives you an extra squadron dial? Oh, well, that's only a squadron token right now. And since you can only spend 1 token, if you already had a token, you're not going to be able to, combine those together. So I really see Draven as having the most significant impact against Squadrons, which I won't lie, I kind of like. In my first glance at him, like, Nav is still going to let people change their speed, but not yaw. Okay, not that game breaking. Engineering goes down a little bit. Okay, that could be cool for late game. Maybe you're not going up against a squadron fleet. You don't have to worry about setting squadron dials for him. Maybe you go with 2 engineering commands, and you set those, and you plan to do this around turns 4 and 5 when you have like a ship on the ropes that's trying to heal up, and now all of a sudden you cut that healing capability in half. That's kind of cool. That's an idea. But you're going to get to see your opponent's fleet. What synergies are they going to have it's going to require that? Maybe they've got Krennic, and he's trying to do that. Hey, I spent a command concentrate fire dial, so I get to reroll all my red dice. I'm like, no. This turn you're going to only be able to get a token tops out of it, and it also applies. It's for the whole round, and it also applies to all of their ships. So. I think for Draven to have maximum effectiveness, you're going to probably want to do these 2 turns in a row. And it's, a lot of times it's probably going to be turn 2 and turn 3, or turn 3 and turn 4. Some use cases being like 5 and 6 if it's like engineering at the end of the game and stuff like that. But he's going to take a long time to figure out a sweet spot for him. I wish he were a little cheaper. It might be easier to justify taking him if he were 20 points. At 28 points, I'm not sure, but I think he offers you some squadron defense, and I think there's something to be said for that. So I think that's pretty cool for the folks like me that like to run no squadrons. Although, granted, Draven's out there, but then you've got Matchstick, you've got other things that completely counter. Like, oh, you can't activate squadrons, no problem. I've got all rogues, or something like that. So I don't know. So let's move on to our 8th final, and greatest card in Rapid Reinforcements 2. The card I have wanted forever has come out, and it's just as cool as I'd hoped. I am absolutely thrilled. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker. 29 points, moderately expensive, and rightfully so. He also comes with opportunity costs, much like Darth Vader. I had my expectations and my guesses on how Anakin would work. This is not what I expected, but it does borrow some things that I expected. I expected that he would be sacrificing something for offense. I thought it would have been, spending a defense token to gain some extra offense, and that is kind of how it's doing it, but it's not gaining just an extra die, although there are extra dice in here. It's not exactly what I thought, but it's definitely parts of what I thought, and I love the way they've done it. It's a very cool idea for a commander. Although I was wrong on one thing. He's not leading the charge directly here. He doesn't have to be at the front of the battle. I think there's room for an Anakin Skywalker officer, though, that might give his ship some kind of bonus to lead the charge. I think there's room for that down the line. I think that would be a cool thing, and we can probably speculate some more on that in the future once the steam starts to run out. So maybe in early 2024, we'll be like, all right, what would an Anakin Skywalker officer look like, But for now, let's talk about Anakin Skywalker Commander. He's got 2 parts, and I like that. So the top part is when a friendly ship performs a salvo attack, it may add a die to its attack pool of a color already in its attack pool. That first part is golden. I love it. Your salvos get an extra die. You don't have to spend anything to do that. It just buffs salvo. I love it. It's simple. It's clean. Has to already be in your attack pool. I just love buffing salvo. I love it. And since many Republic fleets have salvo natively, that's good. The only downside is it doesn't help with the kind of fleet that I've wanted to build, and that's if you wanted to kind of MSU, lots of consular chargers, it's not going to help you there, and that's kind of a bummer to me. I feel like maybe there's room for a consular charger title to give it salvo at some point. It doesn't help any of the small ships for Republic. So this is only for the big boys. This is for the Victory, the Venators, and the Acclamators. So that's a little bit of a bummer. This is good, but this is definitely going to help Venators. For sure. And I think Venators needed help the most. They're supposed to be awesome, and imagine a Venator on its own is just okay, but now Anakin Skywalker leading a Venator coming at you is going to be a lot more nasty. So the second part is once per activation, after a friendly ship performs an attack that targets an enemy ship, that friendly ship may spend a salvo defense token. If it does, it may perform a salvo attack targeting the same enemy ship. I love that. There are things that are going to counter it, like, you get a critical that says only one of your attacks may target a ship or stuff like that. A lot of the same stuff that's going to target salvo is going to target this. By the way, the second part also utilizes the top part, because you are performing a salvo attack, even though you're doing it during your own turn, which is interesting. I want to point out you're not going to be able to, almost certainly, not going to be able to spend a concentrate fire dial during a salvo attack that you're performing during your own activation. So they're adding something that could never have happened again, because it only ever happened outside of your activation. You never before could perform a salvo during your own activation, but in this case, you can, which is weird, but it's cool. But with that comes some interesting mechanics. Like I imagine somebody's going to try and save their concentrate fire dial, right? For those who concentrate fire, like awesome people do, yeah. Navigation is great, but have you tried concentrate fire? It's great. But you're not going to be able to do that on this salvo attack because you can't add dice. This ability circumvents that by letting you add 1 die, but you're not going to be able to just add an extra. It doesn't say you can add any number of dice, or it doesn't say you can add dice as normal. It just says you can add 1 die. So you won't be able to spend a concentrate fire dial during your salvo attack during your turn. But if you only have a token, you could potentially spend the token. Now, point in mind, slight rules clarification, because a lot of people get this wrong. If you only get to do concentrate fire once during your activation, so whether you have a dial and a token, or just one or the other, or if you have them both, when you're doing concentrate fire, you're going to say, oh, I'm doing the dial and the token, or I'm only doing one or the other. You have to declare that before you take the action. So you're not going to be able to like, oh, let me spend my dial on my first attack and then salvo, and now let me spend my token for a reroll. Not going to happen there. But this does make Link to Turbo Laser Towers even better, because now you're attacking 3 times. Oh my gosh. I mean, you could really attack even more than that, but I don't think you want to. I think Anakin doesn't want to have salvo ready for defense at this point. He wants to move in, hit you double arc, and attack you 3 times in one activation. That's incredible. It's gonna be so much fun. So much, and they all get to do it. Imagine 2 Venators coming in and both like getting you double arced, and they're like just 6 attacks, booga booga. And so and because you can potentially do this, I think there's still room for MSU. I think there's still room for a couple of Constellar Chargers or something like that. Like if you wanted to be able to like have 2 Venators and Anakin, but still have a couple of activations, like there may be, a justification for like running some ships that won't get his ability to maximize. Although triple Venator might be more of a thing than ever. I love that idea. I think it'll work well with the Victory also. I think it'll work well with the Acclimator 2, especially. I really like the idea of it running with the Acclimator 2. The only problem with the Acclimator 2 is you have a little bit less defense tokens, so like I feel like the Venator is going to live longer and be able to do this more, and but I gotta play with it. This is my favorite card in a long time. It's beautiful, it's glorious, it's everything I hoped for and more. I love it. I'm blown away. So that's my first look at Rapid Reinforcements 2. It's wonderful. I guess I just wish the Separatists got a commander. That's my initial takeaway. I do think Wat Tambor will perform some of the same function as the role that I kind of wanted the Separatists to get in a commander, but hopefully next time we balance things out a little bit more. Hopefully there's a Rapid Reinforcements 3. This was cool. I like the way they did it this time. They gave us some hype. They gave a little bit of media, like, hey, Rapid Reinforcements 2 is coming, and then they gave us the official preview, hey, it's coming soon, and then we get Rapid Reinforcements. So they gave us the chance to hype it up. Hey, Armada's not forgotten. It's just not top priority right now, but it's still out there, still getting updates. And the fact that this is out here now means they've been probably working on this for a while. So good stuff. I can't wait for you guys to get started on Rapid Reinforcements 3. I want a new Separatist commander. Actually, I'd love some generic upgrades too, or like a turbo laser or something that could go in any faction. I'd love to see something like that. Be pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, guys. Or actually, even before Rapid Reinforcements 3, I'd love a points rebalance. Let's rebalance some points and maybe even possibly look at minor errata to things like ignition attacks. I don't know. Those some of my future wish lists, but really happy with what we got. It's going to change things up for sure. Can't wait to see how the meta develops and how this year's Armada goes. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for helping keep this channel going. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. Always wash your socks. Cowabunga. And have a wonderful day.